All right. I wanted to chat a little bit about this data. I think it's important as we get older and we're thinking about sort of, you know, what the expectations are. It's very common for people to sort of say, how much do you need in your 401k and retirement? And I just want to caution people to think this is not your full retirement picture. You have Social Security, you have a lot of other components. But it's people do kind of look at this number and it is a very common way to look at by the time you get to 55. If you want to have fairly independent life, and you want to uh, have that life without having to rely too much on others. I think this number is very accurate. I certainly look at this number as something, as a number for myself and for others that I know are have worked a hard life and are a long life, and they've got good savings and they're prepared for kind of their silver years or their senior years. Um, and it's interesting, and I'll probably cover this in another video, but if you start this process early enough and you are putting away, savings throughout your life, I would argue that this number is not unachievable. It seems like a big number, but it is when you deal with compounding interest, achieving this number is not out of the reach of most people that have a median or above income, right? Now, I also want to kind of make sure you are aware as well is having this amount of money in your 401k or IRA, pre-tax IRA, is not necessarily always going to be a great thing, because it is going to mean that in your senior years, you could have some significant taxes, right? And I've talked a lot about required minimum distribution, which starts at 73, and the byproduct of that rule of that issue, this person at $1 million is absolutely going to be paying taxes on their Social Security payments, right? Because we already know that at some point that there are required minimum distribution is going to be in excess for certain years, not all years, but I would say north of $75,000 a year and maybe even up to 125,000, right? Depending on sort of how they spread that distribution. And if you have that along with rental income and other things, a pension, you're seeing yourself get pushed higher and higher into the taxable income rates, yeah, federal income tax rates, right? So it is something to be aware of, and it is something to be managed. I am showing another video if you get a chance to look at the sequencing video, because sequencing this $1 million or 750,000 or anything north of 500,000 is going to save you, when I mean sequencing, figuring out when you take this money out versus when you go on Social Security, um, can save you. I've seen as high as $300,000 in your total federal income taxes. So I take a look at that if you get a chance. I will take another look and show people what $1 million 401k balance is going to look like when you go and take out money um, from these accounts. Not because you necessarily want to, but because the federal government requires you to start withdrawing this money at age 73.